Okay, let's take a look at the US data points to keep an eye on today.
Relatively quiet again in the States today, but we have got the US Treasury budget for April. This is the monthly read we get on whether they're running a budgetary surplus or deficit. So we're looking for quite a decent surplus this month of $153 billion versus $52.9 billion last month. But as the markets tends to point out, spending's rising as well. So it sounds quite exciting that we've got 153 billion surplus on the one hand, but as I say, bills are going up, particularly for Medicaid. So don't read too much into that. San Francisco Fed President John Williams will speak on the economy in New York this afternoon. One of his peers, Bob Dudley, has already been speaking out in Zurich today. He said he didn't know when interest rates would rise in the US, so it'd be interesting to see what the San Francisco Fed president has to say. And we've got another one of these survey data. This one really a little bit of a lagging indicator, but the JOLTS job openings for March, looking for a read of around 5.15 million jobs versus 5.13 million in February. As I say, it's a bit of a lagging indicator, but on a quiet day, probably worth just having an eye, or half an eye on that at least.
Understood.